Adam has been passionately involved with energy kinesiology and the associated healing arts for over 35 years. As founder and director of the Institute of BioEnergetic Arts and Sciences, Adam has retired from his everyday practice and focuses on education and training. Amongst his many instructor certifications, Adam was International Advanced Trainer and Instructor Trainer for Applied Physiology for over 20 years. He now develops his own programs, including the Holographic Explorer series, exclusive of Holographic Touch for Health, and in 2019 launched the Integrative Wellness Facilitator training, a first in its class, comprehensive, professional, online energy kinesiology training. He has several online virtual trainings in the works. Adam is a sought-after presenter at conferences and is known for his clarity and humorous teaching style, making learning both easy and fun. To keep up with Adam and his offerings, please join his email list. And if you have a pen there, you could write it down right now, which is www.kinesiohealth.com. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you Adam Lehman.
Thank you, Sylvia. Lovely to be here with everybody today. So, well, let's see. Today, I guess this is the IKC Meet the Authors. So the thing I'll be talking a little bit about are my IKC approved courses. I've created, as Sylvia was saying, for over 20 years, I was a major teacher of Applied Physiology's entire program, which, how many of you are familiar with Applied Physiology at all? Because it's not, okay, so less than half. It was the work of Richard Utt, who passed away a number of years ago now. And unfortunately, the way things, go a lot of times with our great original instructors who pass on, is the work kind of gets lost. And as a result of sort of lack of organization and some other issues, I had to kind of shift over and not be able to teach applied physiology anymore. But because of my intimate knowledge and experience with it, one of the things about applied physiology that I worked very hard to overcome for the 20 years I was teaching it was that it's hard. And, and in fact, the very first presentation I ever did at a Touch for Health conference was called Applied Physiology Made Easy, to try and alter that perception. And it was challenging. It's great work. And after, using it and teaching it for so long, I became aware of ways to make it more accessible for people. And a lot of it, it grew out of applied kinesiology, as did Touch for Health. So in a lot of ways, they had a lot of similar aspects to it. And therefore, so a number of years later, I did a presentation at a Swiss Touch for Health conference called the Holographic Touch for Health. And Matthew came up to me after that and said, you really need to turn that into a workshop. And he kept asking me that, so have you done the workshop? Have you done the workshop? And it took a few years. And then finally, when it just appeared that, my relationship with applied physiology was coming to an end, I was like, okay, let's do this. And so that has now turned into a series called the Holographic Explorer series, which has 3 levels and more to come. The first 2 are different levels of holographic touch for health. And both of those are IKC approved courses. And the holographic model, while, the first course seems like it's a very basic course. It's based on essentially Touch for Health 1 with a couple of other little additions like circuit retaining mode and figure eights. But other than that, it's based on the 14 muscle model. And yet it quickly starts to become more advanced when you add this holographic aspect to it. And the point of it is that, you know, we live in a three-dimensional world, and yet our balancing is done very much two-dimensionally. You know, you monitor a muscle, and then if it doesn't hold, you rub a point. And then see what it does, and you go on to the next muscle. But you know, the world works in relationships. Everything is based on relationships. Our senses are based on relationships. We're always comparing things to other things. And without that perspective, we wouldn't be able to really function the way we do. And you know, you could go back to even just creation and any number of creation models, where it starts with a singularity, but then that singularity splits, and that's when things come into being. And so you always have, you know, the male, the female, the yin and the yang, the positive, the negative, and all of these work in relation to each other. And so that's, you know, with a hologram, hologram is created by taking a laser and splitting it so that one beam goes to a particular object and the other beam and bounces off that object and goes to the holographic plate. And the other beam just goes straight to the holographic plate, and they collide there and create what's called interference patterns. And that's what creates the immense amount of detail and the three-dimensional aspect of things where, you know, you can walk around. It's very different from looking at a picture of, you know, let's say your parents, and you cut that picture in two, and now one's here and one's here. And the more you cut it, the less you can recognize who the picture was even taken of. And if you look at the back of the picture, it says Kodak. So that's not exactly the same thing. Whereas with a hologram, you can walk around, you can get extra detail. And the thing about a holographic picture is, if you cut it up into lots of little pieces and you just shine a laser on the one little piece, you still get the whole image. It might not be quite as crisp as the original, but it's all there. So what in the body does that remind you of? Type in the chat, you know, what does that actually remind you of in the body? What functions in the same way? Anybody got an idea about, or you can turn your microphone on and say what it is. That's fine too. Anybody? Really? Unmute, Evelyn. Ears, cells. Cells is getting closer. What about the cells? Wayne, what do you got? I know you know the answer.
You're talking about the DNA?
I am talking about the DNA.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll tell a really bad joke based on that. So if I can remember it. So what does DNA actually stand for? I know Wayne probably knows the answer to that. Go for it. You just remuted yourself though. Well, I'll just cut to the punchline. Oh, there we go. Typed in deoxyribonucleic acid. Actually, it's the National Dyslexics Association. Sorry. Anyway. So yes, DNA. You can take a piece of DNA from any cell and recreate the entire being, right? And so that's the same as when you're working with a holographic film. You take any little piece and you still get the whole piece. And so the holographic approach that Richard Utt originally developed essentially means you're always going to be working with two meridians, not just a single meridian. So you have the meridian that's the main focus, called the object meridian, using language that comes from holography itself. And then you have a second meridian that's in a direct relationship with that first meridian, that's called the reference meridian. And those two meridians now give you a, kind of a grid, a connection. So for instance, let's say you're working with the stomach. And if I just check the stomach muscle and it's off and I rub the neurolymphatic, what am I really doing? The stomach is kind of a big thing. As an organ, it's got a lot of anatomy. It's got a number of physiological functions. The stomach meridian is 45 points. And so that's a lot of points, any number of which could be out of balance in different ways. There's more than one muscle. And as in applied physiology, we used to check muscles throughout their range of motion. So you had the whole range of motion going in both directions. That's a lot. And so when you're rubbing this, the body really doesn't, all it knows is there's a stomach imbalance. Well, what does that mean? And where do I direct that energy? Well, suppose I now find a reference meridian for that. So I put my muscle into circuit retaining mode and I go find another meridian. And we use alarm points to do that. Thomas, how's it going? And so we find a second meridian that is called our reference meridian, that's in direct relationship. And now that extra piece of that meridian gives us an enormous amount of extra information about what might be going on. And so let's say it's a gallbladder. So now I have this relationship between stomach and gallbladder. All of a sudden, now I have like a concept of what might be going on. So if I look at it from a physiological perspective, then I know that the gallbladder has to do with fat digestion. And I know that the stomach produces hydrochloric acid. And that hydrochloric acid is important for breaking down proteins and other food. But when the food drops into the small intestine, that acidity level also triggers the release of a hormone, CCK, cholecystokinin. And the purpose of that hormone is to tell the small intestine to release enzymes for now breaking down the foods. And it also releases a substance called secretin, which is just an alkalizing watery fluid, because you have this acidic substance and the small intestine isn't designed for acidity. So the secretin neutralizes the acids and allows everything else to work while the food continues its journey through the small intestine. And it also, the CCK goes to the gallbladder and tells the gallbladder to go whoosh and secrete bile into the small intestine, which is critical towards breaking down fats and allowing fats to now move through the barrier of the small intestine, get into the lymph and be, and be broken down further from there. So if the stomach is not producing enough hydrochloric acid, which in my opinion, there's an epidemic of digestive issues that result in what's called hypochloridia, lack of hydrochloric acid. And so without that enough acidity, the CCK doesn't do any of that. It doesn't get triggered to release, and your whole digestion suffers. And now you have lightly acidic stuff moving through the small intestine, which can trigger duodenal ulcerations and things like that. So it turns into a big mess. Now, knowing that, if I see gallbladder and stomach in relation to each other, that leads me to think about asking a question of my client, such as, how do you feel when you eat fatty foods? And they'll look at me and go, oh, it's awful. I just feel terrible after if I eat French fries or something like that. I love them, but I pay the price. How did you know that? Well, I knew that because of this information. And so depending on the meridian pairing, you can very often come up with, a much better idea of what might be happening with your client. And you don't make assumptions of that, but what you do is you turn it into a question to elicit more information from them. And now you've learned a lot more about them, and you have a better idea of what you're doing. And then if you're going to rub neurolymphatics for that, for instance, rather than rubbing just the stomach neurolymphatic, I'm going to rub stomach and gallbladder together. And so when I do that, I am now sending a very specific message to the body of where to direct that healing energy and what it's really for. And so it's very efficient and very effective. But don't forget, at the same time, you might say, well, but that's so specific and there might be other stuff, whatever. Yes, and because this is a hologram, you're not only balancing this relationship and all that goes along with that, but you're also still addressing the whole, because it has that DNA property to it. Now, that's just the physical side. Of course, there's other relationships involved here. Maybe the person, when you ask them about the fat, says, well, I can eat fatty food all day. It doesn't bother me. Okay. And that may be true. Well, maybe there's an emotional aspect to it. And so, in level 2, I get into talking about holographic 5-element emotions and how to address relationships. So instead of just looking at sympathy and empathy, I'm looking at the combination of sympathy and empathy with anger. And it brings a whole different dimension, literally, to the story that a person tells, and brings out a lot more stuff. All of which you then, when you do your balancing, gets balanced. So that's kind of the crux of the holographic model, is that it's a 3-dimensional model. And in doing so, it's very efficient, it gets further to the crux of the issues, while giving you, the practitioner, all kinds of great ideas about what might be going on with the person that you can then feed back to them, elicit information. And at the same time, when you do your balancing, you're also balancing the whole. So that's sort of the core concept of holographic touch for health. And then over the course of the 3 levels, by level 3, we're getting into some very, very advanced aspects of, brain balancing and some other emotions using concepts, a concept called Sentics, and things like that, which I could go on all kinds of more time about, but don't have the time to do so. And so I'd like to, and I know there's one person, Cedrine, you're from the Netherlands, right? So there's a conference coming up in the Netherlands later this year, which I'll be speaking at. And then I do have instructors of Holographic Touch for Health 1 in various places around the world. There's a couple in the Netherlands that will be teaching level 1. And then when I come, I'll be teaching level 2, I think after the conference. So if that's of interest, tell your friends and come on out. And Pauline is an instructor. Els Jansen is an instructor. So if you know those people, Paul, you might be in touch with them. Other than
Adam,
that,
thank you so much.
just one last thing. Other than that, I do have online stuff, the Integrative Wellness Facilitator training. That's kind of closed right now, but there's going to be a reopening of that soon in a very special way. And I've got some other great things in the works. And I just recently taught a workshop that Wayne was at, understanding muscle response feedback, which is what I call what we do now. And that's available for a mere $47. So if any of that is interest, email me and get on my list. I put the website in the chat there, and join the list, and you'll get occasional emails and about things and what's going on. So does anybody?
Adam, thank you so much. Are there does anyone have a question for Adam?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Adam. I was just wondering, I don't know if you already mentioned it, can we study your Holographic Touch for Health online?
That is not currently available online.
Okay.
And I've got a number of things kind of to get to before that, but eventually that will happen. Maybe next year if I can get everything else done. I'm trying to think. I must have.
Will you be in England teaching it at any point?
Well, yeah, I've taught it a couple of times in England when I've come over for the KF conferences. And I'm trying to think of English instructors. I'm pretty sure there were a couple that took it, but have not been active and have not actually done any teaching of it. So I'm hoping to get that to change and ramp things up a little bit more with the inactive instructors.
This is just it's not a question, it's just a comment. It's just a actual classic example for me of why we wanted to do Meet the Authors, because now I'm so curious as the word that I wrote down, because it's like I've seen the Holographic Touch for Health advertised lots and lots of times, but just having you explain it, Adam, the way that you have with the grid and the two meridians, I'm going, oh gosh, I'm in. And that's exactly what you need, is the author to explain just in, very simple, basic terms what the thing is about. And then all of a sudden you're going, oh my God, that makes so much sense. So thank you for that big light bulb. Let me chase you down somewhere around the world or online.
Sure, thank you.
So both Evelyn and Adam, this evening, or this session today, has just been eye-opening, and that you've given us a glimpse into how we can all expand, how we can learn more, what is on offer. And these sessions of Meet the Authors are just so valuable for all of the authors to be able to tell all of us students, and we are all students, and we're all ready to learn and wanting to know what is available. And thank you so much for your preparation, for your presentation, and for your time for the Personal Development School Meet the Authors. Folks, this has been absolutely wonderful for me, and I hope that you got as much out of it as what obviously Jackie and I did.
Well, thanks for having us. We really appreciate having the opportunity to have a chat with all of you guys and meet you personally and all that kind of stuff. So
feels great. Like coming home, doesn't it, Adam?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I get
it feels like it. Yes. And for anybody who has inside of themselves, or maybe you've already written a course and you don't have it accredited yet with the Personal Development School of the IKC, then please come to the board and just see if your course actually ticks the boxes of the personal responsibility model and the educational model. And if that ticks both of those boxes, then we're interested to help you to get your course accredited. Thank you very much. And since we began this evening, Thomas Holbert has come online. He is the Dean of the Professional School of the IKC, but also an active member of the board of the Personal Development School. So we have such fun on our board. It is such a lively and working board. It's really good. We're really proud of each other and how that we plow through the work. Adam's going to be bringing us in some more work. So very busy. Folks, that's it from us this evening. Thank you so much. And it will be, thank you so much. Thank you, Evelyn and Adam again, and everyone
Thanks,
for
everybody.
being here.
Great to see you all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Evelyn and Adam, and thank you everybody for attending.